getting naked in front of other people is probably 99.9% of the world's greatest fear.
The costume had been ready. I'd been practicing. Everything was set.
I just remember being a complete wreck.
It was my first time performing in a thong.
My pasties were super huge. Like I was trying to cover my whole boob with my pasties.
It was definitely an eye-opener.
Because I felt sick. Like I felt like I was going to get up on that stage and all of my insides were going to be on display on the stage.
And then it was like, oh my gosh, this is really happening. Showtime.
Cocaine Love and Visions, who were the go-go dancers right before the weapon music.
Blinded by the stars in my eyes. Blinded by the stars in my eyes. Blinded by the stars in my eyes. Blinded by the stars in my eyes.
The way I got involved into burlesque is I moved here from California to New York after just a bad breakup and lots of things that people go through. I wanted to just take classes to help boost my self-confidence. I didn't really have any intention of performing. It was actually my best friend who flew into New York for my birthday a year and a half ago. She purchased classes at the New York School of Burlesque for my birthday present.
I was initially intrigued by burlesque, I think, when I was a little girl watching musicals, and that big dance production and that leading lady that would stand out from the chorus line and always have a little something that they took off. I think that was my first inkling of the idea of burlesque.
I think I started collecting pinups when I was like 15 or so. I thought burlesque was this dead art form. And then I got older and I got to this point where I wanted to do all of these things that I thought were impossible, but they just weren't accessible. And suddenly burlesque became accessible.
And I love the fact that we have such a versatile audience going into burlesque as a beginner. You know what I mean? Like I'm definitely amateur to this. And it was just the response that we've gotten thus far has been so great for a bunch of females that most of us that have not done this.
It's an experience you come into, it's new, it's different. It forces you to step out the box. So it forces you to dig deep inside yourself to do something that you're not used to doing. Even if you are comfortable, it's still something different that's like, okay, you know what, let me try it. I like it. But I like it, it's really fun.
In that first performance, I went from being a scared person just trying to survive the next 3 minutes and 36 seconds to instantly like craving when I'm going to be able to have that experience again.
Once you get on stage and you get the audience's reaction, everything leaves. Everything completely leaves. You forget what you're wearing sometimes. It just feels that good. Now it's like, okay, what are we wearing? Oh, nothing again? Okay, great. Whatever, let's wear it.
People just kind of think you go out on tables and, rip off your clothes, that it's not necessarily an art form. And I would certainly never put down stripping in any way. But what I do is different.
I think in club stripping, there's a common misconception about those performers that they're only doing it because they need the money and they hate the job and da-da-da-da-da-da-da, because somehow a woman using her body for commerce or even expression she has to be somehow victimized.
It's not stripping. It is a form of being sensual, and it's entertainment, it's enticing, you know, but it's still classy.
Most strippers, club stripper, burlesque stripper, we love stripping. We are ecdesias. We are people who really enjoy doing this.
From what I expected. I just thought, okay, women in high heels, but at the end of the day, we're storytellers.
When we say burlesque, we're really talking about, like, the broad term of the word is actually a theatrical style. It used to be a physical building, a burlesque hall, and a satirical commentary, a particularly satirical and social commentary form of theatrical performance.
Burlesque for me has been so empowering for me that it has actually made me a better, representative of what I actually am. I didn't realize that my body was political until I started performing burlesque. And
I said,
we're telling stories. We're just using our natural, sexuality or whatever to get the story across. But it's a little difficult sometimes explaining it to some people that are a little closed-minded to it. But those people, you invite them to the show and they see it, and then it changes everything. My mom, actually, she loves it. My mom loves it hands down. She tells her friends, co-workers. The only people I'm working on are my grandparents. They're still, old school. They're like, oh no, put some clothes on. You look good, but put some clothes on.
It sounds a little self-absorbed, like wanting to be on stage and getting an applause, but coming from the background that I grew up in, I was trained to put everybody else before myself. There's a lot of children. My biological mother couldn't take the responsibilities of being a mom, so I got that responsibility very early on. So I've already felt like I've raised children and all of those things, and burlesque was the first thing that I discovered that is solely for myself.
I'm pretty open about being a burlesque performer. I don't just spring it on people, but if people ask me questions about things or like, what do I do for fun? I'm a burlesque performer. I was online dating, and there was a picture of one of my shows, because, where else are you going to get a full body photo? And this guy sent me this long thing about how much he was interested in me and how great I sounded, but he didn't know about that stripper thing. And I was just like, what?
When I first started performing burlesque, I was doing a lot of dating. I am not from New York, so I don't know very many people here. And I did have that experience where guys that I would go out on dates with would ask me, like, is this just a hobby? Because that was the one thing that kind of turned them off from dating me. After about 6 months of performing, I just decided that this is something I'm doing for me, and I'm not going to really worry about who I'm dating, and the right person will actually come into my life.
When I tell people about burlesque, shockingly, I actually get very welcoming responses. I was working actually at a school in Brooklyn. The director there, I told her I had to leave because I had to do, some performance-based stuff, and I expressed, I'm like, I don't know how you feel about burlesque, and she just, oh my God, I used to do burlesque. My husband comes to every show. Oops, did I say that? Every show. I even invite him to rehearsals. I'm very comfortable in my own skin, so I love him to see other skin too sometimes. That's completely okay.
And I actually wound up meeting a wonderful person at at a show that I was performing in. It's a woman, surprisingly to me, and probably everybody that I know. I went for like months and months saying if she were a boy, she'd make the perfect boyfriend. And all of a sudden, one day I woke up and that if she were a boy thing kind of just fell away. And I decided to take a chance, and over a year later, it's probably the most successful and supportive relationship I've ever been in. And she's coming home with me next month to meet my family for the first time. So.
When I read the stories of women that did it 100 years ago, 80 years ago, and then I do my best to give it my all today, and then I pass it along.
At the end of the day, as vulgar as it sounds, we're selling a sexual experience, something sexy.
We support each other. We don't bring each other down. We will never have to worry about that. And that's when I appreciate that a lot, because especially, you know, in high school and coming up, you know, I've had my things with females and stuff like that. It's hard. But this is definitely a sisterhood. It feels good. This feels good.
And I've been actually reaching out to try to encourage the community to figure out ways to embrace, you know, more performers without having necessarily to have a show called Hot Chocolate Review.
We've had a very amazing kaleidoscope of women come in and tell stories, be sexy and free and revolutionary. You'll see pieces that range from like the classical, like just a fun, like just something sexy, dance driven, movement driven, to something highly political that is making people uncomfortable, you know, challenging things that folks don't usually challenge.
People are so friendly and nice. And I've made so many friends in the scene. That's been really great. It's much more incorporated in my life here than it ever was on the West Coast. A lot of burlesque shows, the host will ask who's never been here, and there'll be a bunch of clapping, and I'm always surprised. It seems like it's a really underground thing, I guess, as an outsider, but it's really not. Because there's so many shows, you know, your sister could be a burlesque performer, and you have no idea.
Yeah.